Hey y'all, happy Saturday. It's Krishan. How are you? I want to say hello, hello, hello. Happy Saturday. Yes, ICKF is here. Hey, hey, hey. Please confirm that you can hear and see me. That would be greatly appreciative. So excited for y'all to be here today. We got a lot to talk about Black travel, the Black Renaissance, as I like to refer to it as. And I have an awesome guest. And yeah, I just want to see where everybody's coming in from and making sure y'all can hear me and everything is good. Um, Figure I'll go into some announcements. So, for those that are new here, I'm Krishan Wright. I'm the founder of Blaxit Global and the host of the Blaxit Global podcast. Blaxit Global exists to empower and inspire members of the African diaspora to pursue a life abroad. So I will be making my big move next year to Portugal. Yay, yay, yay. And currently the podcast is in hiatus while I record season 5, but it's a great opportunity to catch up on seasons 1 through 4. I've had over 40 conversations. It's amazing. So just want to say, hey, hey, Arletta's here. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, how are you? Good to have you here. Um, Wanted to do a rundown of some things that are top of mind that's going on. We have our free Swahili lesson tomorrow. So there is like a slight mix up. So the time is, if you're on Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time, it's actually 1 p.m., not 11 a.m. But we have a free Swahili lesson with our partnership with Resplendence Language Arts. And I'm so excited. So definitely, if you haven't registered, email them. And if you need me to put the info on it, there's actually a post on our Facebook page, there's a post on our Instagram page, and there's a post actually on our YouTube channel. So you should have all the information there. Just shoot them an email. It's a free 45-minute lesson, beginner friendly. And I just thought it would be a great way for anybody who is thinking about, learning a new language. It's a great opportunity to learn one of the languages of the motherland. And also, I always do things from a place of like how I'm going to serve the community and also where I see there's opportunity. And, there are these big apps like Duolingo, but while they cover mostly the European languages, different European languages and also Latin languages, they are woefully short on African languages, sadly. And although they have Klingon on there. Anyway, so thought it was a good idea to offer this to the community. So wanted to make note of that. I see a bunch of y'all up in here now. So I just want to definitely acknowledge you. Let me scroll back up. Hey, twin mommy Denise. Hi, how are you? How are you? Yes, yes, y'all can hear me. I think there might have been like a little delay because all of a sudden, like all the messages came in. So I'm glad that y'all can see and hear me. So yeah, we got Texas in the house, we've got Detroit, Chicago, um, and let's see. Oh, it's yes. Oh, okay, cool. Yes, good afternoon, my friends in Portugal, boa tarde. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Da, da, da. Hey. Oh, hey. How y'all doing? You have another week, right, Halisi and Rick? I think you have another week before you go to Portugal. Yay, yay, yay. Let's see. Everybody's doing well. We've got everybody coming in. Oh, you're logging in for wow. All right. Cool, cool, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I know, right? Klingon takes precedence, right? It's crazy. So, oh, you leaving Tuesday. Okay, so Halisi and Rick Our Black Utopia. Hope you are already subscribed to their channel. Their content is amazing. And they are making their big move to Portugal next week. So sending y'all good vibrations. I can't wait till y'all get settled in and find your next update. I think they are not going live, and let me know if I got this wrong, Halisi. You're not going live tomorrow. You're doing a premiere instead. And then they'll be back with their lives, I think like the week after. But if I got that wrong, correct me. So we have that. Our men's group. So I'm excited. Some of y'all have seen our email and that went out this week. And if you're not getting our emails, you really should get on our mailing list because it's amazing. But we have our newsletter that went out and announcing our men's group. Yay, I am so excited to have a space for men in the platform. So Michael Ruth will be spearheading that. So if you are a man and you're watching this live or in the future, or you know of someone who would benefit from that, send them our way because I want to get that kicked off soon. Let's see, Blaxit Global course. The course is live. We are still in registration. I think the registration is going to close Friday or Saturday. So you still have time to sign up. I know some of y'all have. Looking forward. The doors officially open on Monday, September 26th. So a lot of things are happening between now and then, prepping everything, making sure all the login information and the platform is working. But please take a time because we are going to be covering everything in this course, choosing the right country, finances, taxes. Oh gosh, there's like estate planning, all of the things that you need to know. But more importantly, with our lens in mind. So there's that. Let's see, I'm going down my list. Don't forget, tomorrow, I'm actually going live tomorrow as well. This is like unusual, but I'm going live today, of course, right, with Leroy, who is our next guest. And I'm also going live tomorrow with the ladies of Exodus Summit, Stephanie Perry and Rashida Dow, and we're going to be talking about ways to make money abroad. And let's see. I think those were all of the big things that I wanted to cover. Oh, yes, last thing. We have a channel membership, so please join our channel membership. You will see the button somewhere on their channel. So hit the notification bell. You'll know about notifications when I go live, but also join our channel. You get exclusives and things like that behind the scenes. And then like we do like a little kickback. So just want to throw that in there as well. Just want to jump back in here. Yes, Melanie. Jade is like, not Klingon. Yes, Klingon. Yes. Oh, yes. So Halisi did confirm that there is no live tomorrow, but maybe a pop-up live next week. Awesome. Yes. We are so excited. So got that all off my chest, everything. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up my next guest, who is Leroy Adams. He is a wonderful, wonderful serial entrepreneur. He is the host of the Buddy Pass podcast. And y'all know I love me some podcasts. And editor-in-chief of the Buddy Pass magazine. So we're going to have a fabulous conversation today. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Brother Leroy. Woo, woo! I'm being silly today.
Yo, your Klingon took me out. Your Klingon reference took me out. Duolingo does not have Klingon in there.
Yes,
Don't tell me that.
Yes.
They out of line.
And if I'm wrong, y'all jump in there because I'm pretty sure when I last looked at that, I had Klingon.
They out of line for that.
So I am so excited to have you here on the platform today because, as I mentioned, you are a serial entrepreneur, you're a podcaster, you're multi expat, right? You've gone to so many places. So I know that with that brief introduction, I have not done your story any justice. So I definitely want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves to the people.
Sure. Everyone, I am Leroy Adams. First of all, thank you, Krishan, for allowing me to be on here. This is one of the podcasts that I truly, truly love, and I think you're doing an amazing job of
Thank
really
you.
documenting and capturing the Black travel and Black expat stories. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And also, congratulations on preparing for your move to Portugal. I am jealous of you. I'm ready to get back abroad myself. And Portugal is on the list. And I do want to know why a lot of Black people are moving to Portugal. Like, let's have that conversation for sure.
Yes.
But I'm Leroy Adams. I am, yes, the producer of the Buddy Pass podcast and also the founder and editor in chief of the Buddy Pass Travel Magazine, which is a travel magazine specifically for Black people, but even more specifically, really documenting and covering the experiences of Black millennial travelers.
Yes, yes. And there's so much, with you and your podcast and your platform that you've been doing. And I know for our conversation today, we definitely want to talk about, Black travel, Black global travel.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think what's really been interesting to see, because one of the things that I keep talking about on the podcast, and I know you have in yours as well, is as Black people, we have been migrating all over the world, right,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
centuries. And so that part isn't new, but what I see to be inspiring and interesting is, we have these really the foundation and the bedrock are these Black travel groups that have really catapulted and elevated and amplified, the
yeah,
accessibility and the stories that have inspired people, influencers to start,
yeah.
going on their paths. And, the OG in my book is always Evita Robinson, right? Founder of Nomadness Travel Tribe. And I had the pleasure of being a speaker at Nomadness Fest this past weekend, and it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal
Oh,
to see so many of us, BIPOC travelers, influencers, creators, just being able to commune with one another.
yeah.
And also, not even just that, but also brands, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
that came to have, really genuine and authentic conversations. I was able to have a conversation with a senior editor from Condé Nast Travel,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, it was really, really cool. And, then I also was meeting, these destination organizations. So there was like Louisville, and they put on a show. I made bitters. I got my sip on. So it was just really impactful to see what started off as a Facebook group, like just
Yeah,
like Blaxit Global did originally,
yeah,
to see like the growth and then the impact,
yeah.
right, that has spurred so many groups that have followed. And Leroy pointed out when I got on, like I'm wearing my
The
let's see,
BTF.
my BTF, my Black Travel Fest Bali t-shirt today. Because got to represent our travel groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are making impacts and inroads. So from your perspective, like how did it all start for you, and how much influence did you find or support even from these groups?
Uh, well, when I started traveling, these groups didn't exist. If they did, I was not tapped into them. My first time abroad was my junior year in college back in late 2010s, I would say, mid 20s, some 2012, some around there. And it was a study abroad trip to Taiwan. And as I looked online, like social media, Facebook, I didn't see any references of Black people traveling to Taiwan, Black people in Taiwan.
Mhm.
And then, going back to my family and then sharing this experience, the idea that I wanted to go to Taiwan, there was a lot of pushback,
Mm,
even, from those who love me dearly, like my mom, right, and my brother and my best friend. They were like, why would you want to go abroad? Why would you want to travel? It's dangerous. All of these things that they believed at the time. And
mm,
so I really I like many Black travelers, I believe, you really embarked on that journey by yourself in the early days. Now you have not just Facebook groups, right, that you can tap into, or social media pages that Instagram pages that you can tap into, but you have global communities that you can tap into ahead of time. I'm sure you've been in contact with the people out in Portugal as you prepare for your trip. That is amazing to see that growth and that evolution of Black travel.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you're right. Like it is, I look at my life today versus where it
Mhm,
was 2 years ago and before
mhm.
I started Blaxit Global, not knowing I had one Black expat that I knew, which was
Yeah,
my former colleague Marsha, who was on in season one. But everyone else I knew, everyone else I had on the show, I did not know at that time.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but now when I, have communications today, it's like I get up in the morning, I've got a message from somebody in Singapore, I'm talking to, people from Black in Portugal, and I'm shooting over to someone else or lining up another guest. Oh, who's in Saudi Arabia? Like I'm always managing multiple time zones, but it's interesting that, like you said, it's about this community and connection, particularly at this point in time
mhm,
where, I know there's a lot that sometimes social media gets a bad rap, but I think one of the things that I hold near and dear to me in terms of the Black travel, renaissance and experience and movement is that we have, many of us really have that foundation, that core
mhm.
of building community, not just, you know, traveling for the gram. Yes, we
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
want to
yeah,
highlight and showcase it
yeah,
because, like you said, when you were searching for it,
yeah,
representation matters. And oftentimes
yeah,
we are not featured when there's stories about destinations like Taiwan
yeah,
and things like that. So it definitely has its place. But what I think is near and dear that I see come through is this authenticity and desire to build connection, to have
yeah,
authentic connections to the lands in which we are a guest.
yeah. And we also get the chance to rewrite the narrative of Black American
Mhm,
people and the African diaspora at large. One of the things I found incredibly important as I was when I first became an expat, which was in Beijing, China. Um, I was shocked at the amount of Black people that were in China. I'm on a plane. I'm headed over there to Beijing, and I'm like, at this time it was 2016.
mhm,
I'm gonna be the only one there. Like, there's not gonna be many people like me that are in China. Like, nah. And I get there, and there is not just a huge Black American community, but a huge Black African. Like, it's Black people from the Caribbean, Black people from Africa, the Europeans, Canada, all over. And one of the things we found that was important for us to do was to essentially rewrite the narrative
mhm,
that the local Chinese community had of Black people because they would treat us in the same way that we were often treated back home or in Western countries.
mhm,
And the example I always give people, I always share this story when folks ask me about my China experience. I tell them, listen, it was great, but it was complex, right?
mhm.
I was a teacher in Beijing, and I remember I was teaching first graders, I think, at the time, first or second graders. And one of my students, whose name is Apple, she walked up and licked me. We were performing the ABCs, we were singing the ABCs of all my students, and Apple walks up and licks me. And I'm like, all right, she's a
Like where?
second grader. These are kids. She licked my hand. I was like, all
Oh,
right, cool. She's a kid. Like, maybe they're just playing around, whatever.
yeah.
But she keeps doing it. It's like, why is this Chinese child licking me? So I walk out of my classroom and I call my homie who's working at a different school. I say, bro,
Mhm,
like, are your students licking you? And he's like, yeah, man, I had a couple students licking me. And he said that his the other Chinese teachers told the students that he was made of chocolate because the students kept crying every time they saw him. And so I walked into my office. I looked at my Chinese class. I said, did any of you tell my students I'm trying to hold back? Did any of you tell my students that I was made of chocolate? Oh no, no, we would never. Turns out her parents told their daughter that I was a chocolate bear because Apple would always cry whenever she had to go into my classroom because again, she had never seen a dark skinned teacher. And so, here we find ourselves, we had an opportunity, right? So I called my homie back. I said, bro, man, like, this can't keep going on. What are we going to do? So I called him back. I said, all right, we could do one of two things. We can stay in our anger, or we could
mhm,
do something to help, again, address these ideas that they have of us because we're going to be here, we're going to live here. And that is when I started my first company, BLK GEN in Beijing, where we like curated artistic events throughout Beijing and Shanghai, events around dance,
Oh,
poetry, spoken word, film. And the goal was to bring the Black expat community together and the local Chinese community together and use the arts to tear down a lot of
mm,
these ideas that we both groups had of each other, right? We
yeah.
we all had these groups and we were right applying them in the way that we interacted with each other. And so what I find now with these other global Black communities, Black in Portugal, Black in Bali, Black in Spain, what have you, is the opportunity to not only for us as Black people to travel collectively, to build lives abroad, but to address the narratives and the ideas that people have of us around the world because they're not going to get it from American media or propaganda, right? They're not going to get it from Western media propaganda, right?
Mhm.
We're going to be the ones that have to essentially change the image of Black people on a global stage. And I really like, I'm excited for these global Black communities to be a part of that work.
Oh, absolutely, and my mouth was open as you were, like, explaining what had happened. And what struck me was just you being able to see the opportunity, not just to focus on the event that was
Yeah,
happening, and I'm sure a bunch of emotions that follow with that, but also to see that this is a window and or a door to bridge, and educate. And you made it a point to mention how, like, Western media influences how
yeah,
we're perceived in other
yeah,
countries. But I would also add to that, I wholeheartedly agree. I would also add to that that we also do that in the sense of, um, whenever I go to any country, I can hear rap or see
yeah,
that,
yeah,
right? And
absolutely,
it's a
absolutely,
double-edged sword, right? Like,
absolutely,
if it's
absolutely.
80s hip hop, right?
Hmm.
I'm still cool, right? I'm still vibing. But when you start getting into the 90s, the 2000s, right?
All,
Right? It sometimes my
yeah,
stomach, I have a visceral
yeah,
reaction because I feel like we took a left turn, but it adds to that, to your point,
mhm,
perception of, hey, what do you think of
yeah,
a Black person when you see them? Are you thinking that, I'm just gonna come up to you and start twerking on your leg or whatever,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah, yeah,
there's weight to it because
yeah,
media and the visual is powerful. It
yep,
has deep influences, and even the language, right? So you're hearing songs, you're in a club, and I was in Greece, like, I remember at Super Duper Fly, right? And I'm like, da 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 da, and the lady was saying that, and the end, and I'm like, no, okay, who's saying that?
Did you look
Who said
around
the
like
lyric, right?
who said?
Right? And so it's I think there's an opportunity there for people to understand that in the world that we live in, right, that there is global reach.
Mhm,
And that, I think it's powerful and amazing what you did and what you continue to do to empower and educate people along the way. But I think there's still, like, some work that the
a lot of
Western
work to be done.
world needs
Yeah,
to do,
yeah,
and especially, with the Black people as a whole, right, the culture,
mhm,
to make sure that we're thinking about not only, countries in which we don't index as high in terms of population, but even the motherland,
mhm,
right? Like,
mhm,
there are influences that come along with that, that we have seen over time, whether it be you know uh in the 70s, right, big afro, natural hair, right,
yeah, yeah,
power to, relaxing and weaves and all of that, and that's influenced
mhm,
in on the continent as well. And so I definitely think the more that we have conversations like these, and we can have these discussions and an elevated consciousness, I think that's
mhm,
also a powerful way in which you can affect change.
mhm. No, I absolutely, and I'm glad you brought up like even the image that we have on on the continent, because again, I think there's a lot of power and influence there in terms of reshaping the idea that we as Black Americans have of the continent and getting more of us to perhaps consider that as a primary destination for travel or even moving abroad. So I even see that relationship there, perhaps as something that's quite more important than us
Mhm.
changing the narrative of Black people and other spaces, right? Because we do want to continue to improve upon the relationship between Black Americans and African people. And as more of us get out there to travel and actually have that experience firsthand, you come back with a different story and a different feeling, and you sharing that back with folks back home, and now they want to go because they want to experience it. So it completely erases whatever it is we learned in our grade school books and our history books about the continent, and then of course vice versa.
Oh, yeah, it's big opportunity for, re-education,
Yeah.
confrontation of the miseducation
Hmm.
that has happened, and that's why I think, we are in this unique time in life, right? Where content creators, right? We're adding to the conversation, and we're creating the blueprint that somebody else is gonna use to make their
Yeah.
transition, much smoother, and so I certainly agree with everything that you said because, even when I went to Portugal in April for my scouting trip, I felt so at ease with
Hmm.
having like Black in Portugal, and they had
Hmm.
their event going on. We did trivia night and, I got the pleasure to interview them in person and then also to connect and hang out with Shar, who's the founder of the Expat app. And, it's just to see these groups and communities that all started from an idea, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to go here or I'm building the thing that I wish was here for me, right? And then being able, it's like a magnet, right? Your tribe starts to come together and then takes on this like uniqueness of its own and then it just starts to have a life of its own and people make these connection points that then
Yeah.
makes that next step that much easier. Oh my gosh. I love talking to you.
Yeah. I'm glad you used the word. You refer to it as the Renaissance, eh, because I think it is. I think just like the first two Renaissances, the Harlem Renaissance and the Black Arts Movement, you know, these this particular movement, the Black Travel Movement, in many ways is doing the same thing or saying the same thing. Like we are here and we exist and our voices and our experiences matter. And the way that the Harlem Renaissance, made it okay or at least encouraged Black people to see themselves through an
Mm,
artistic lens and then in general, and the way that the Black arts movement told Black people it's okay to love yourself, it's okay to love being Black, Black power. The Black travel movement, I think, is really saying one, it's okay to not want to stay here in this country. That is okay. It is okay to accept the idea that America, the US, is not the only place that you as a person can be successful. Adding to that, this renaissance, if you will, this movement, if you will, is really adding globalism, the globalism context to Black lives. It's now saying it's like we are global people and we move and we navigate. And to your point of earlier, we've been doing these things, right? Black people have been circumnavigating the world. James Baldwin in Switzerland and France, Maya Angelou in Egypt and Ghana, MLK in India, Malcolm X in Saudi Arabia. Like we've been doing these things, but for a long time, it was really reserved, if you will, for the civil rights activists, the politicians, and the athletes, the people that had the money, right? The money and the resources to do it. Now it's open to the masses, right? Because of social media, we can see what it's like for us in other parts of the world. Because of economic development, we all have those resources. Because of educational development, we all have the understanding of what the world is and is like outside of the US. And so this movement is saying, this renaissance is saying, like, see yourself, Black people, on a global stage, not just
yes.
within the US. See yourself in the world, creating, building, traveling, having fun, enjoying life. See yourself out there and don't be afraid of that. See yourself, love yourself, but do it also within the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that it's also getting back to what you were saying about like educating and passing it on. You touched on
Mhm.
something earlier in the conversation I'd like to revisit, where you were saying, like, when you were looking at that first opportunity in Taiwan, you had
Mhm.
some unexpected pushback. And so I kind of want to
Yeah,
revisit that part of the conversation, primarily because, for most of us, if not all of us that are embarking on this move abroad or who are already abroad, we are
yeah,
often the first in our families to
yeah,
do that.
yeah.
And so I think that, and in doing so, like you had mentioned, it's like, okay, well, why would you want to do this? Or is it safe? And all of these
Mhm.
fear conversation, sometimes gaslighting,
Yeah,
occurs, being intentional or unintentional. And oftentimes I find, especially with the people I coach or other sidebar conversations that I have, is that sometimes people get rattled by
yeah,
that,
yeah,
so much
yeah,
so that it shakes their confidence,
yeah,
second guessing
yeah.
themselves.
Absolutely.
It's so layered. So, I guess for me, like, did you anticipate that?
No, I don't. I don't know what I thought. Actually, I thought that people would be excited. I really did. But the response was not surprising because of the lack of familiarity with the rest of the world. Again, I was the first person in my, at least my immediate family, to have a passport. You
Hmm.
know, and so there was no experience with the world beyond, the state of Georgia, where our roots were, where we go back with family reunions and things like that. So I was just surprised and shocked. But then as I settled into my understanding of what they were seeing and what information they had absorbed about the
Hmm.
rest of the world, it made sense. And it made my decision and my decisions, several decisions afterwards in terms of, moving to China, Peace Corps in Ethiopia, and then various other places that I've had the fortune to been, go to. It's made those decisions a lot easier because the responses have changed, but there are still those voices that sort of push back and say, "Man, life here is great. Why not?" I'm not denying that life here in the U.S. is fine for some people,
Hmm.
but I and many other Black people have tasted joy and generosity and success in other parts of the world without the burden of what it is to be Black in America. So when you completely remove that burden, and now all there is opportunities to really experience your joy, really experience your passion, really experience your Blackness in a way that we often can in the US. Why would I not want to keep going and tasting that and experiencing that, knowing very well that okay, I could come back if I want
Hmm.
to. My family's here. I could come back if I want to. And so early in those days, the responses were shocking.
Hmm.
Now they are they're less shocking. But then when they come, when people are like, "Why would you?" Again, it's fear and misinformation that the work that we're doing, is trying to combat. We can't reach everyone, but we can meet who we can, and hopefully we change their minds.
Absolutely. I think it starts with meeting people where they are.
Many people,
And
yeah.
then, to the extent, and I have a video on our YouTube channel with some of the ones that I've heard or have been directed at me.
Mhm.
Like, "You're leaving your kids? Like, you mean my grown ass kids?"
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Who have passports and who have been to more countries
yeah,
than I have?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
those children.
yeah,
You mean the
yeah,
one that you're not paying for their college tuition and what? I'm sorry, my
yeah,
my retirement? What? Huh?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But that didn't happen overnight, right?
Mhm,
Um, that thick-skinnedness didn't happen
mhm,
overnight. That had to be a
mhm,
lot of self-talk, nurturing,
mhm,
education, experiences, to your point, being able to experience that joy, that
mhm,
being, unapologetic, and I talk about it on the podcast, right? Unapologetic and unbothered. And
mhm.
you get a taste, and it's like, about to
Yeah,
live the day I would, right?
it's addictive. It is
Mhm.
addictive,
Absolutely. And you talked about something that I want to drill down because,
Mhm,
you're a serial entrepreneur. and you were talking about, being in this place, and I'm paraphrasing here, this place of, abundance and opportunity.
Hmm.
And so when you started and you were in Beijing, and you had, you created this business, like obviously it then, spurred other ventures
Yeah.
that you've pursued, but like what is that like when you go into another country? And of course, not every country is going to yield an opportunity, but
Sure.
talk about that part of it, because I think so many people get, myself included, like I said, where I
Yeah.
was 2 years ago to where I am
Yeah.
today, totally
Yeah.
different, right? I was tunnel vision thinking, oh, I
Yeah.
have to have a job, right? And
Oh,
then
yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to do
Yeah.
this. And so you're
Yeah.
not able to see, because you have no frame of reference, right?
Yeah.
Other than the US being oversaturated and lack of
Yeah.
opportunity and all the things we talked about. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, this really depends on the country itself. You and I talk about Deidre Dares out in Bali, and
Yes.
one of the things that Deidre shared with me when I was asked, like, what is it like in Bali, and why Bali? She said, well, Bali is very entrepreneurship friendly. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to really get your business up off the ground and travel, most likely a digital based business, of course, Bali is a great place because the cost of living is cheap. China was the same way. The cost of living was incredibly low. So from that standpoint alone, if you are, an entrepreneur, and there are black people out there. Like, I had a creative brand, a creative events brand. There are black people who had bakeries, they had catering businesses, they had barbershops, they had salons.
Mhm.
You name it. Like, black people had these. They were operating in these different types of industries.
Mhm.
And because the cost of living was so low, right? We had the means to save up and take some risks, take some chances. But you also have to put in the work, and that is learning the culture, learning the people. And it may not necessarily mean you have to command the language. In a
Mm.
city like Beijing, you could be basic, or
Oh.
not even basic at all. Your Chinese could be crap. But because Beijing is a huge city, plenty of Chinese people and other foreigners who live there speak English very well,
Mm.
you're able to conduct business in your mother tongue because they also speak it, right? English is an international language, international business language. So in a
Mhm.
city like Beijing, if you have an idea, if you have the drive, and if you're willing to sort of put yourself out there, things will move and start happening for you. When we came up with the idea of Black Gen, we needed event spaces. And so we had to work directly with event owners, venue managers. Most of them, if not all of them, were Chinese. Some of them
Oh.
spoke English well, some of them didn't at all, but because we understood that they were also trying to tap into the Black expat community, right? Again, Black people spend money and we spend our dollar strong no matter where we are,
Yeah.
right? We were that avenue to do that in a respectful, genuine way.
Mm.
And so, if you are someone, an entrepreneur or business person that is looking to maybe get your business up off the ground or start a business in a different country, or you're about to move to a new country, right? And you think you may want to start a business, learn the people, right? Learn how they move, learn how they perceive business, right? An example could be in China, when you exchange business cards, you do it with both hands, right? That's respectability, right? And so
Mhm.
understanding that going into a business meeting is important to know, right? So we
Mm.
do that exchange, right? And so understanding the nuances of not only the culture but the business culture is a great first step. And again, you don't always have to command the language when you do that, and it's even better when you're in an English speaking country, and to start, right? It's very similar to being back in the US, just taking a risk. And at the end of the day, you're dealing with people. And at a very base level, people are pretty much the same, especially in business. People want to make money, they want notoriety. And so figuring out what that exchange looks like will get you started.
Oh yeah, and I'm so always taken aback when I go to other countries, because, it reminds me of, I've got a few years on you when people would do business with people, right?
Mhm.
Before corporations really, like now it's corporations everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, like you go to the neighborhood store, or you go
Mm,
into, oh, so and so's parent owns this, clothing store or whatever, or restaurant. But now,
mhm,
it's all of these mega corporations, and we've kind of gotten away from the interactions with people.
mhm.
But when I go to other countries, it's really, people to people. It's who can
Yeah,
vouch for you,
yes,
right? It's
yes.
all about those relationships. And I love that you highlighted that because, for many of us that are coming from, the States and, from mostly the Western world, it's not that, and so there's a
Mhm,
learning, to your point, there's a
mhm,
learning
mhm,
that needs to take place, and a humbling to say, "Okay,
mhm.
I don't know everything. I'm not, the smartest person in the room. I need to sit here and be a student of what's going on. What do I need to
Mhm.
learn? You know, how do I not offend?" Obviously,
Yes,
that's a
yes.
big thing that's important, because, you will get checked. And that's okay, right? It's okay. I remember when I was at the airport in April coming back from Portugal, and I was trying to find like my departing gate, and I didn't realize after I went through security that I had to go through another thing, and then the line was like ridiculous long, and here I am. I'm like, I don't have to wait in this long, right? Like my mind like was jumping, and I just go up to, this gentleman who was working there, and in uniform. So he was working there, and I'm
Mhm.
just like asking him a question, and he looked at me and he's like, "Bom dia." And I was like, "Oh," right? And it snapped me back like, "Ooh, I'm being rude. Like I'm not even acknowledging
Mm,
this man. I'm
mm.
not saying, I'm just worried about, oh, Krishan has to go somewhere. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
where I need to go." And he wasn't being rude, but he looked at me like, "Un dia." And
Like
I
what
was
you
like,
did.
"Whoa," right? And so I said that, and, and then, of course, I acknowledged it and apologized, but it was helpful because,
Mm,
again, the way we move here, right, this, like, microwave society, oftentimes, the politeness, the social norms, right, kind of fall by the wayside, and we put our priority on our immediate
mhm,
needs and
mhm,
not acknowledging the humanity of
mm.
another person, or especially if it's another person that's different from who we are. And so this gives us an opportunity to like get back to that
Yeah,
connected.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what and when I do interview Black expats, one of the things that they often share that they enjoy about living abroad is it feels like life slows down. It
Mm,
feels that life slows down and their lives or their identity. Let me rephrase that. Their identity doesn't become consumed by what they do, their career. I had one brother that was on. He lives in Spain right now, and he said that he actually turned down a $70,000 job raise with a company in the U.S. He would have had to move back to the U.S. And he was
oh,
like, Leroy, man, like, what 70K when my entire identity in life is about the work? What 70K if I could get pulled over by a police officer and the rest? And so
mhm,
many Black expats will say, like I don't like my friends that I live with here in Greece and Bali, I can't really tell you what they do for a living. We don't really talk about work. Their lives, they over here in Spain, over here in Finland, over here in ice, like our lives are not don't resolve around our jobs. Like that's not what it is. It's about what do you love to do? What do you love? What do you love to drink? What do you love to travel? That is what life is about. Those connections, your personal interests, your passions, not your jobs and your career. So when I do talk to expats and when I do interview them, a lot of them really praise the idea that life slows down, the
mhm,
quality of life is different, and their identities are not their jobs or their careers. It's who
mhm,
they are as individuals, as people.
mhm. That is so important because especially in the United States, right, we are
Mhm.
so married to our job in our identity. And I get it to some degree, right? You spend the
Mhm.
majority of your time outside of your home, you're working somewhere, right? And you hear
Mhm.
it in the language, oh, my company, my office, right?
Yeah,
We have
yeah,
this
yeah,
ownership.
yeah.
And so and we've grown up, many have grown up with this, um, either the generation before would have, had enjoyed things that have evaporated
Yeah,
for us, like
yeah,
pensions
yeah.
and things like that. And so there's this belief that of, like it's a family, right? Your work family, my work
Yeah,
husband,
yeah.
my work bae, right? We have these
Which changes the
language
dynamic around. Yeah, yeah,
language is very powerful. And so
yeah.
there's an emotional connection to that. And so when you take those belief systems around family and that language
Mhm,
section, and then something unexpected happens, right?
mhm,
Like the pandemic, layoffs, and there's a
mhm.
disconnect, an immediate disconnect, or a firing, or whatever. It's a complete disruption. And you are so wedded to that identity that it is very hard to recover from. And people do get into a state of not being able to see the forest through the trees. Um, and I think that there is an opportunity to do some unlearning and some work, like you said, like, when you are able to travel abroad, so many of us are travelers, right? We get that week or 2 weeks, if they're
Yeah,
lucky,
yeah.
away
If we use it, if
if
we
we
use it.
use it.
Yeah,
And if we're not looking at our phones while we're there, right? Checking work emails, because I don't want
yeah,
to have this when I get back, but you're still not
yeah,
in the moment, right?
yeah, yeah,
You're not able to take in because your body is wherever you are, right? Maybe you're in Bora Bora, whatever, right? But your mind
it's
is
back
in
at work.
the office.
Yeah.
And I will say, when I was younger, and it has stayed with me, unfortunately, many people that I had worked with in my previous career had passed away unexpectedly. And it was a lesson I learned very, very early. I think I was maybe 21, 22. I had
Mm,
one colleague, and I used to work in the New York State legislature. And at that time, we could never pass a budget on time. So we would be there. Gosh, sometimes I would go in at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd be lucky if I go home
politics.
two, yeah,
Yeah,
two,
yeah.
right? Politics was a hot mess. Well, it's still a hot mess, but I guess it's worse of a hot mess than it was back then. But we've been negotiating the budget. And so there was always, every year, we knew something was going to
Mhm,
happen, right? Some
mhm.
lawmaker is going to be on the floor talking, and then literally on the floor because they passed out, or, sergeant in arms or whatever. And I remember an analyst, and he had a heart attack and died. And he was in his 40s. And then another colleague of mine, who was on my team, was traveling to see her son at college, and died en route. And like I said, I was 23-ish at the time. And that was like such a powerful lesson to me, because one, that life is short, but
Yeah,
like two, you drop dead and they'll have somebody else in your place tomorrow. And at the end of the day, when you die, they're not putting your job title on your tombstone, right?
yeah,
They're putting, what are you most remembered for, as, whether it's, son, father, daughter,
yeah,
wife, child, whatever that is, that's the meaning of life. That's
yeah,
what gives meaning to that line that is between your birth date and your end
yeah,
date.
yeah.
There's meaning in that line. It's not just a dash. And so we have to try to um, embrace and think about things differently, so that we have power and meaningful in that, and not think of everything as being like, I'm dashing over here, I'm dashing over there. It goes back
Mm,
to you were saying, being able to slow down,
mhm,
experience life, get to know yourself, your wants, your likes, your
mhm.
dislikes, and even challenge where those likes and dislikes and beliefs came from in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, that and again, that's a relearning, right? That's a re-education, which is why that's one of the things we'll talk a lot about in the magazine is really being active and enjoying your life as Black people, as a people who've given so much to this country throughout our history. It's now with the resources and the access that we do have as a result of the work of previous generations, it's
Mhm.
taking advantage of that. You know, if you got that PTO, bro, take that PTO, right? If you if you got something saved up in the bank, you know, your finances are covered and things of that nature, sis, like treat yourself, take that trip, like be very active in taking that time. And what I'm even seeing now, like with a lot of um, parents in my life, like my aunts, uncles, even my mom, is that transition to where you mentioned it earlier. The kids are grown; they're out
Mhm.
of the house. Are you taking advantage of this newfound freedom that you have? Right, and I can be a very. I'm not a parent, right? But I'm seeing from afar how that can be a tough transition because as a parent, you've spent the last 18, 21, some longer years taking care of this family unit. And
Yes.
now this family unit has grown, right? The kids are out of the house. And now it's you and the partner, or just maybe you. And you're looking around. It's like, okay, well, what do I do? Bro, you
Mhm.
travel. Sis, you travel. Sis, you enjoy the life that you always wanted to maybe have. You know, when you those moments when you're like, damn, why did I have kids? And you told yourself, if I didn't have kids, I'd be doing this.
Do
Right?
that.
Do that. Like if
Right?
y'all
It's
wasn't
like,
here,
'cause
if y'all
I'm
wasn't here,
telling you, it is. It's so true.
I would be traveling here. Boom, they not here. Do that thing. Right?
You
Do
know,
that thing.
I'm in it too. I'm like, I looked when my daughter, she's doing her college application,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, where's your passport? And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, checking the expiration date because I was like, okay, so yeah, you still got time. You come visit
Yeah,
Portugal.
you
And I'm like,
good.
oh, my son. I'm like, oh, wait, yours is expired. Dude, you need to have another passport before the time I leave. I'll make sure all of that's done. It's like,
Do
because
that thing. Yo, do
signal,
that
I'm
thing.
not going to be coming back that often. So
Do that thing, yo.
y'all, your knees are better than mine, so
Mm.
y'all can take these like long flights. So here's a good segue because you mentioned the magazine. So I want to transition to that part. So
Yeah.
you have the Buddy Pass podcast, and
Mhm.
so now you have the Buddy Pass magazine. So
Magazine.
talk to
Yeah.
me about
Uh,
magazine. 'Cause first of all, kudos to you and all the
thank
flowers.
you.
Like, this is huge,
Thank
right?
you.
This is huge.
Thank you. The only Black travel magazine that will exist in the travel industry. You know, as I was producing the Buddy Pass podcast over the last couple of years, traveling around interviewing Black folk in like Spain, Switzerland, all over, um, people started hitting me up. It's like, hey, man, how do I move here? Hey, is it safe for us there? Hey, like all of these questions that you undoubtedly always receive, right? And
Mhm.
so I actually started to put together a travel guide. And then I was doing my research. I was kind of, doing a research into Black travel. Where are we traveling to? How much are we spending? What do we need? What do we want as Black travelers? Not only as current Black travelers, but as aspiring Black travelers, right? What do we need? What do we want? I realized that the travel industry, even on a deeper level, was failing miserably in connecting with Black travelers and marketing to Black travelers and promoting to Black travelers. There's a ton of data out there. 70% of Black travelers said that they would spend, way more money traveling if they could travel with a brand that reflects their identity and experiences, right? 60% of Black travelers say they'll even spend more money than they already spend with a brand that the messaging is centered around the experiences of Black travelers. Like if you're trying to market a destination to me, and I'll give you a perfect example. I think I told you last Friday the magazine got its first investor.
Yes,
Um, and
congratulations.
thank you. And I'm in this session with this investor, and it's for a destination management office.
Wow.
And his team had sent over an ad weeks prior to the meeting. I met with their team. I said, "Hey, man, listen, we will give you all a free space in the magazine." And so just send us an ad. And I said, it's a Black travel magazine. These are some examples of it. And I have an opportunity to share what the magazine looks like a bit here with the audience. But this is the vibe, this is the feel. Krishan, you'll see it at some point, but if I could show y'all the ad that they sent, it wasn't us. Let's just say that. It wasn't us. There wasn't even people in the ad. And again, this is an issue because you're talking about marketing a destination.
Yes.
People respond to seeing people in advertisements. So what that told us was that y'all ain't have no Black people. Y'all ain't have no Black images. Y'all ain't have pictures of Black people, images, nothing to put in this ad. So our team, our designer, made an ad for the same company. And I'm in this meeting and I'm going through my pitch deck and I pull up his ad. I said, sir, your team sent an ad. Here's the ad that they sent. It's fine, right? This is what your city wants to promote. Cool. And then I brought up our ad side by side to his, and he looked at it and he was like, okay, I get it.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the audience we're talking to. This is the audience we're trying to help you tap into, right? You want to get more Black folk, more Black families to this city. We're going to help you do that in a meaningful, genuine way. We're connected to them. We know what they want to see. We know what they need, and we're going to make sure you're meeting their needs. And so as I was putting together the guidebook at the time and conducting the research, I said, man, like I love storytelling. I love storytelling. I love creativity. I love art. There does not exist a Black travel magazine. I'll make a magazine. And so I put together the very first sort of like test issue, if you will, earlier this year. I took all of the podcast content that I had, some of the podcast content, and transcribed it, added that, and then I just wrote a ton of other different articles, me and my podcast partner at the time, and branded it and everything like that, and I put it out there, and the response was, and it was so inspiring. Folks were like, oh my, this is beautiful, this is beautiful, this is inspiring, this is okay, that's the feeling that I want. And so I said, okay, let's move forward with this. Right there, this is obviously a need. And what's been cool to see as I continue to create this, get the first issue, I guess second issue ready, and really, like you said, you talked about earlier about just learning something new. Like as I continue to now like learn, how do you be a publisher, how do you create a magazine, so on and so forth. One of my guides, if not my Bible, has been a book called The Man from Essence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's about the 4 Black men who founded Essence. Did not know, by the way, that 4 Black men founded Essence.
Me
And
neither.
it is, when I tell you, it has been an incredible resource because it not only is like walking me through the day-to-day of Essence from its beginning to now, but I'm learning things about the dynamics of a Black business having Black employees, the relationship of a Black business to the Black community. We won't learn this in business school.
No.
Right. These are things you will not learn in business school.
Yeah.
But it's teaching me all of these things. It's teaching me that Essence struggled to raise money to actually produce this. They needed $1.5 million to publish the magazine in the first year. They were only able to raise 130K.
Wow.
Right. It's really been a tremendous guide. But so I'm lucky to have that resource to go along this journey and really follow this step-by-step guide and take the buddy pass, to a level of Essence in the next 10, 15, 20 years, right? This is a long-term game for me and my team and those who are on board. We know that things take time. It's not going to pop up in the first year or two. It took Essence almost 7 years to be profitable. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we know this is a long-term game, but we also know that once people see this, they feel it, they touch it, they connect with it, they're going to love it, they're going to embrace it, they're going to want more of it, and then we'll continue to create a magazine that responds to whatever it is that Black travelers need and want.
Oh yeah. I mean, there were so many gems in what you said, and I want to like break it down because I know that, like I said, for those that are watching live, definitely, and I want to tell y'all, like, you have questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll definitely have an opportunity to take some. But, one, you talked about, being able, first of all, to see that, what you had, what the agency had sent over, like was off the mark, and to,
Mhm.
have that creative eye to
Yeah.
then say, no, this is what representation looks like.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
power in that, because some people either would have been like, "Oh wait, this feels like I can't say this. I don't want to
Yeah.
offend. I don't want to miss an opportunity." But I
Yeah.
love that you leaned into it and said no, like you did when you started in the conversation about, Apple licking you. You're like, "No, this is an opportunity to educate." You're like, "No, this is an opportunity here. This is what it looks like
Yeah.
when we come to the table and we're saying our requirements are to be in this magazine, the tone, the visual, everything comes together. That's powerful.
Yeah.
You know,
It took
I
me a while to get there. If I may interject real quick,
but I'm so
I
glad
may
you did
interject real
though. Tell
quick. I
me.
I was happy that I did. I was happy that I did, but it took me a while. Listen, I asked my girlfriend, I asked my homies, I was like, yo, they sent this ad. We created this ad. I'm meeting with their chief marketing officer tomorrow. Major, like this dude could say yes or nay on this, on partnering with our magazine.
Mhm.
Do I show him the ad we created versus the ad they created and essentially critique his team's work? Do I do that? Every single one of them said yes. One of my
Yes.
homies was like, bro, you have to tell them black people not fucking messing with what they trying to show us. Like, and
Hello.
then I also had to sit back and realize a lot of times, Krishan, we ask for a seat at the table. And when we get that seat, are we speaking up? Here
There
I
you
am with a
go.
seat at the table, right?
Yeah.
But it's also normal to be like, wow, like this is a very powerful person. Do I who I'm essentially asking money from or partnership from,
Hmm.
right? What, like, how do I navigate that situation? And so I had to sit back and listen to what the community, what the culture was saying, what I felt deeply, and I said, listen, we appreciate it, but it's not talking to black travelers. It's not talking to black people. Let us help you. And
Hmm.
he took it well. He sat back. He was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah."
Yeah, no, it's
You know,
so important because, like you said, we want to have a seat at the table, and there's like, oh, Emma lost you for a second. There you go. There's having a seat at the table or
hmm
creating your own
or
table,
creating your own table. Yeah. hmm
and also recognizing that there is power in that. And so, like I think I might have shared in our conversation, for almost 4 years I led digital marketing for the Advil brand.
Mm,
And I'm proud of the work that I did during those 4 years. I worked on Advil and Advil PM because um, I made sure, like,
yeah.
we had black, people in the ads, anything that it was, that I touched, but it was because the agency, oftentimes the agencies we were working with did not have black people at the highest level of the agency or
hmm
doing the creative work, right?
hmm
Or,
hmm
then translating what they think the client wants to see.
hmm
And then I'm looking at it like,
Yeah.
you know, and I remember there was one piece of creative in particular. There was like two that were memorable that like really missed the mark. But there was one in particular. It was like an ad or something for Twitter. I remember, and it was, I forgot what holiday or whatever it was. Maybe it was Halloween or something. But it was supposed to be like a person morphs into like an animal, and all the pieces of content they were sending me like had no black people, right? I say, you need to have representation.
Yeah.
The one creative now you wanna put on Twitter is a black man turning into like a wolf.
Oh my
I was like, "Send that back."
god. This ain't it, bro. This
Hell
ain't it.
no. Not on my watch. Not on Krishan's watch. They may not know there's a black woman behind this brand, but I know there's a black woman behind this brand. And while I'm sitting
This
in the
ain't it, bro.
seat, we will have none of that, okay? We will have none of that.
Yeah. but it's funny, like, that's one of the things that our designer, my editorial designer has, who she has 15 years of experience in the magazine industry. And that's one of the things she's been helping me to really understand on a deep level. She's like, listen, these companies, they're not gonna know how to create an ad for our magazine.
Yes.
We're gonna have to make the ads for them. We'll charge them, of course, but
Yeah.
we're gonna have to make the ads for them because what they send over is not gonna meet not only like our creative standards and our design standards, but our representational standards, which is priority over everything else. They're
Mhm.
not gonna meet that. And so we're gonna have to hold their hands in the beginning of these partnerships until they get it right, until it gets to a point where we don't have to do that work. We don't have to do that lift. They know who we are, they know who we're talking to, and they know how
Mhm.
to authentically represent Black people in the travel space. And therefore, their ads will reflect that. And so that has been, I mean, right, we see it, we feel it when we turn on the TV or when we open travel brochures, right? We see that there's no one else like us that look, there's no one in there that looks like us, right? We see that, we feel that. But to be in the room with the people that are responsible for making these graphics, making these ads, making these brochures, and then to see on their faces, like, oh, yeah, you really don't get us at all. There's like
Yeah.
zero understanding of Black culture and Black people there. So, yeah, we're going to need to bridge that gap.
Oh, absolutely. Because I remember at Nomadness Fest last weekend, and Evita was talking about like a lot of the stats that you had just referenced earlier. And she was saying when she works with DMOs, if they have that make sure that they provide, representation on any production crew, because that's important. That is
Yeah,
one of her requirements. And it's like if they can't meet that, then she gets to bring in her own team and crew, and they pay for it. That's part
yeah,
of the agreement. But I loved how what she said, and what you said, like there's power in recognizing, like, hey, okay, I see y'all. Y'all may be
yeah,
good at what y'all do for general market, but we are not general market. No matter how much y'all try to say we are not general market. We are
yeah.
different, right?
Hmm.
There's uniqueness. We're not a monolith. And
Hmm.
we have the ability to capture, reflect, highlight, amplify all of the authenticity, the beauty of who we are as a people.
Hmm.
We have the opportunity to bring and put our sauce on it,
Yeah, yeah.
and in doing so, you're gonna have to pay for it, right?
Gonna
Because
for it.
that is
Yeah,
something that they recognize is missing. And also too is that, don't just come to us when it's Black History Month, or something like that. Like I'm Black 365 days of the year.
that is true. And we
Right?
travel 365 days of the year. So don't
Exactly.
come right during Juneteenth or Black History Month. Right?
Exactly.
No, don't
It's
don't
like,
don't play with
"Oh,
us. Yeah,
look, it's Black History Month. Oh, it's
yeah,
Juneteenth. Oh,
yeah,
look, black
yeah,
squares,"
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
this
yeah,
we see through it,
yeah,
right? And so I love the fact that, you are highlighting, where they're falling short. And, even with Black Travel Alliance, they've done a phenomenal work for the past 2
mm,
years highlighting, where, and Marty does this scorecard, to show like where they are falling short, and has called them to task. And even
mhm.
now, with all of that fabulous work, 2 years later, there's still a lot of work to be done. And of course, we know
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't happen overnight, but having these conversations in the public, and that inspires everybody who's watching and who's going to watch
yeah,
the replay and in the circles that they are in. That's how you get the multiplier effect, so that
yeah,
when we go to these places and we're like, "Oh, I don't see us represented or represented well,"
yeah,
that then starts to have the change.
yeah. No, it was wild, to be in these rooms with these companies and to show them the magazine, and they're just blown away at our design, the aesthetic, the vision, the culture. And it's like, but y'all like Black people live in the like. Don't y'all see our culture, our vibe, our swag every day, in and out? Like, don't you consume it? Don't you repurpose it?
Mhm.
How are you struggling to apply that to Black travel? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
don't understand. But what I do realize is that they fail to understand that what we do experience when we travel and what we feel when we travel is different. You brought up your airport story. One of the articles I can't wait to write about in the magazine is what it what Black people feel when we come back to the US after having left for a short time or a long
Mhm.
time, doesn't matter. Again, every interview that I've ever done with any Black traveler, any Black expat, we all talk about the airport, any
Mhm.
US airport. Because when we get off that plane and we walk into those airports after being away to Bali for a couple months, or Spain or Mexico, China, Korea, wherever, when we come back and we're walking through that airport and we're walking through immigration, we feel something different within our bodies. Our
Yeah.
shoulders get heavier. We feel a bit more exhausted. And this is not jet lag. This is
Yeah.
not jet lag. This is something deeply emotional and spiritual. We
Mm.
feel that it overcomes us. And it's our bodies telling us, remember where you are. You're back in the US. And as a Black person in the US, you have to stay on guard.
Mhm.
Literally, person that I've spoken to, myself included, has experienced this. I just feel tight and
Mhm.
rigid compared to when I'm, in Mexico and I'm frolicking, right? Right? We're frolicking. We're full of
Yes,
joy,
right.
right?
You're frolicking.
We're
I
frolicking.
love those videos
We're,
of Black men frolicking. Like, yes, frolic away, frolic away.
we're frolicking. Right? We're smiling. We're at ease. We're at
Yeah,
peace, right? We're not tight. We're
yeah.
not tense. These travel companies don't understand that feeling because they're not
Mhm.
Black in America. They're
That
not,
part.
right? They don't understand what it's like to be licked by a Chinese kid because she thought you were made of chocolate, right? They don't know what it's like to walk through India looking at the Taj Mahal, but instead of folks around you also looking at the Taj Mahal, one of the greatest wonders in the world, they're all staring at you and they all
Mm.
want pictures with you and they all want to touch your hair and they want to give
Mhm.
you rupees, money for your hair, right? They don't understand these experiences that
Mm.
most Black travelers have. Therefore, it makes complete sense that your messaging and your advertisements are not connecting with the Black traveler because you're not speaking to the totality of our experiences.
Mhm.
So I'm not surprised.
Oh, yeah, and I think the power in having there was another thing that you had mentioned as well, in addition to the creative part, was that you did, a test
Hmm.
before you went full on. And again, like you're dropping all of these gems, but it's the blueprint for someone else who's sitting there and thinking like, oh, is there opportunity to do something? Like you're talking about, hey, you did a test issue. You
Hmm.
have, the
Hmm.
blueprint that you're following from
Hmm.
Essence. And then you're also seeing like, okay, now that I have this, how do I transform? How do I
Hmm.
start to educate from the Black experience and
Hmm.
perspective? And so there's, of course, there's Black travel writers, but oftentimes they're writing for non-Black publications. And
Non-Black
so they're tailoring,
publications.
exactly. So they're
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
tailoring it, the experience to where it's
Yep.
like, okay, I got to soften this because I don't know how it's going to
Yeah.
land.
It's the white gaze, right? It's the
Exactly.
white gaze. There are going to be white people that see this. And for so long, Black people have been responding to the white gaze, right?
Mhm.
We don't want to make white people uncomfortable. And so for those creators and those writers because my editorial designer, I actually find her on Upwork. I put up an ad on Upwork. Hey, I'm looking for an editorial designer for the magazine. I put a couple examples of the issues from the magazine up, and she hit me back the next day. I'm an African American digital nomad. I got 15 years plus experience, and like I want to work on your magazine. And so when her and I connected, and I interviewed her, she said, "I work for these corporations, Mac, Sephora, what have you, and I don't feel like I can be creative in the way that I want to." Mind you, this is an editorial design. Creativity is her job. It's
Exactly.
their job. But they're telling me I don't feel like I can be really creative. And I feel like with your magazine, I have an opportunity to really express my creativity. We might as well say really express her Black creativity
There
in
you
a way
go.
that white corporations don't allow. And so
Mhm.
when I tell you, Krishan, this sister has come on and showed out with this magazine, like showed out. Like every meeting that I have, I'm like, what can I see next? What can I see next? Which page? Which page? What can I see next? What can I see next? Yo, that looked dope. That looked dope. Oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. Like she has really embraced this magazine not as a job, but as like a passion. She
Mm.
wants to express her she wants to express her love for travel and creativity through this magazine and really reflect and show the spectrum of Black people, of Black travel in a way that honors who we are as a people. And so I'm glad that I got the opportunity to give Black creators, just in the same way that Essence did back in 1970, was a creative outlet for the Toni Morrisons of the world, right?
Mhm.
Was a creative outlet for writers, poets who
Yes.
could not find places or were able to find places, but had to tailor their content, their art, right, to fit
Mhm.
a white mass, the white masses and the white corporations. Essence came in and was like, this is a publication for Black women, and Black people can come here and write and create and not feel any restraints at all. The Buddy Pass Travel Magazine is that very thing for the Black generation today, for the Black creatives today. It is a space where you can come and write about your travel experiences, share your travel photos and videos. Even if it doesn't have anything to do with travel, if you just have something on your heart, on your spirit, and
Mhm.
you want to share it through a creative lens, the Buddy Pass is your space to do that. And there is no restraint as a Black writer, as a Black creative, as a Black photographer, as a Black artist. There's no restraint or like you can express yourself in the way that you feel you need to, in a way that you feel honors and reflects the culture. And
Mhm.
so I'm excited that I get that chance, that I get to create a publication and a platform that gives that door to Black creators to say, yo, come in, let's create something dope together and share with the culture.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm gonna ask y'all that are on there. So y'all want to see the Buddy Pass magazine?
I'm only gonna show a
Say yes.
couple.
Say yes. We want to see some excitement in the comments. We want to wake y'all up because I know y'all still with us, but let us know if you want to see love something, something. Um, so I know you have on your side, Leroy, right? You
Mhm.
can do that.
Share? Yeah,
Yes,
I got
please. Because oh yeah, here we go, here we go, here we go. When he said yes, when it said yes, yes,
All
all
right.
right,
So I'm
yes.
going to just share. So I'm gonna share three. My designer would kill me if I keep showing people this, but you
Yes,
know,
just y'all
we
gonna get
were
a little
a
something.
little bit. So this was gonna be the inaugural cover of the next issue, but we thought that it was really, really important that each cover has a Black face on it,
Mm,
depicts a Black person traveling, depicts a Black person having a very joyous, fun experience, or just and so when my team came back and they were like, let's like we've understood what you said. How about this? And they were like, this is just a young Black man chilling, just like drinking from his coconut out in Bali, having a good time, just not bothered at all, just at peace. And I was like, man, I love that. Like this is dope. So this is so every issue, every cover will have a Black person, a Black traveler represented in the way that is beautiful and authentic. And so if you have travel photos that you may want to include, like send them our way. Like we accept that. Like we want to show Black people on the cover of this magazine. So if you have travel photos, Krishan, and if you want to show it, share it with us, please do.
Do I
Please
now
do.
that I came back from Bali?
You
I
might
got
make it on our
trouble.
cover. You might make it on our cover. And
Wow.
this
Oh
is
my
just
gosh. And let me know y'all in the comments. I hope we're sharing the screen. Hopefully you can see it. Let us know if you are not seeing the screen share. You should be seeing a woman now with on the right side who has her back. Oh, okay, they can see it now. I'm
oh, that's
getting
it.
some
Okay,
reaction.
cool,
I'm gonna take us
cool,
out
cool,
so then they can see more real estate.
cool.
Um, Oh my gosh, it's stunning.
Yeah. And so when I did the very first issue, now mind you, this is essentially a redesign of the issue that I did myself. When I brought on our editorial designer, she said, "Listen, just let me redesign the work that you did. Let me play around with it, and if you like it, then we can move forward." And this was one of the redesigns she did, and I said, "Sis, we're done. Let's do this. Like you got it."
Wow.
We This particular section, this discovery section, as I've been traveling and interviewing Black travelers, it's been so refreshing to see that Black people discovering their personal freedom and living their passions to the fullest. And so, in this inaugural issue, in this very first issue, we wanted to show that. We wanted to show that Black people are traveling and navigating the world and they're discovering their personal freedoms in a way that they have not or cannot in the US. Their freedom to sip on a coconut, stand in the beach unbothered, right? They're feeling their freedom to let their hair down, their natural hair down, let it live in a way that they are not able to in the States, right? They're able to just let their Black skin glow in the sun and not worry about what people are going to say or how the world is going to respond to them. Like these are people that are discovering their freedoms. And then there are also Black people that are discovering their passions. Black
Mm.
people that are starting businesses, enterprises in a place like Bali, in a place like Portugal, in a country like China that honors what they really want to do because now they have a chance to really focus only on themselves and only on their passion and not what white America thinks about their passion or thinks about their Blackness. That problem doesn't exist. And so
Mm.
now they can focus entirely on their passions and who they are and what they want to be and what they want to create and what they want to give to the world. And so in the first issue, the discovery section will really speak and show some examples of Black people that have tapped into their personal freedoms and their passions and what they're doing in places like Bali and Korea and what have you.
Oh my gosh, this is like so breathtaking. Like,
And the
it's so beautiful.
the last one is this.
Oh
And
my goodness.
so Renee was one of the travelers, expats that I actually had a chance to interview on my podcast. She's based in Korea. She grew up on the East Coast of the US. I think it was New York. I'm sorry, New Jersey. And she said that she made a decision to move to Korea because as a model and an entertainer, she felt that the US markets were so saturated. And then she got online and she noticed that there were like Black creatives in Korea and Seoul. So she said, I'll just go out there. And I mean, she's doing, Krishan, I can't begin to tell you how dope this sister is and the work that she's doing as a model, as an entertainer, as a creative, and really opening up pathways for other Black models and entertainers to look at Southeast Asia as an option to get
Mm.
your careers off the ground and thrive, right? And so, you know, this is an example. Renee's editorial is an example of those Black people who are not constrained by, you know, what it is white America tells us we can and can't do, or how we can and can do such things. But this is a young lady who said, "I'm gonna, I'm gonna take a big risk, and I'm gonna take my career over here, and I'm gonna see what happens. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I can always come back home." And it has worked out for her. And you know, she's having this beautiful, amazing career, and I can't wait. You know, I'm supposed to go over there next year and get a chance to connect with her and some of the other Black folk out there, and really do a profile on the Black creatives in Seoul, Korea, like Renee. So again, in the magazine, you'll see stories like this, and you'll see the beautiful images, and you'll have a chance to understand, like, yo, we are a global people, and we're doing amazing things across the world, and you can too, and this is how you can do it.
Yes, it's like when you give yourself, first of all,
Mhm.
again, before I even go into what I'm about to say, again, congratulations. This is so amazing.
Thank you.
Like, first of all, like, this is monumental,
Thank
right?
you. Thank you.
It is
Thank you.
monumental, it is beautiful. I want to, like, I was about to launch into something and I'm like, "No, no, no, we need to sit in this for a minute." Like, we need to sit in this, and the comments are lit up, like,
Thank
wow,
you.
yes, the reactions are, I'm I'm at a loss. It's
Thank
just,
you.
it is stunning. It is thoughtful. It is when he said living life like it's golden. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes, yes. Karen said that's a travel magazine for us. Oh, yes. The question is, when does it launch? When's the next issue?
All right, I'm gonna come up. I'm gonna take this one
Yeah,
down,
no worries.
um, and I'll bring us back up.
Yep.
So I'll drop a link in the comments. So please don't log out yet. I'll drop a subscription link in there. So this issue is scheduled to come out mid October. So we're probably looking at like October 15th, because we've had some investors and advertisers come on board. So yes, we got to get in this. We got to get in there. Like, can you hold off for a couple more weeks, please? Please hold off. So we're like, okay, we'll hold off for a couple more weeks. It gives us some time to refine the content a bit, and then promote it a bit more. And so I'll drop the subscription link so y'all can sign up, check out our website, and stay connected so you're aware of those launch dates. Also,
Yes.
if you do sign up today, when I drop the subscription link, I will make sure you all get a 50% discount on whatever subscription you sign up for. So it could be an annual subscription or it can be a monthly, whatever you sign up for, we'll make sure you get that. And the only way I'll know that I need to give you that discount is if you sign up today, because we're able to timestamp when that person subscribed to the magazine. So if you subscribe today, Saturday, September 17th, I'll know that you did so because of Krishan's Black Travel Podcast, Blaxit Podcast. And so I'll make sure you all get those discounts. So be sure to do that once I do drop this subscription link here in a second. So again,
Yes.
we're looking around middle of October, is when we'll launch it, and then go from there. See what the people think, see what they say, what it is they want to read. I mean, I'm really excited about the content, the interviews, like just the beautiful Black people that we get to show, around the world, and the spaces and the places that you can go and travel to and connect to. And not only that, but just that practical information, right? We'll have an article on how do you save to move abroad, right? How do you save for a gap year? How do
Mhm.
you travel as a solo Black woman? How do you travel as a solo Black man? How do you travel as a group? Because we all know it's a struggle to get those group trips together. And so we'll have practical information and advice on how to do that very effectively, so
Mhm.
that, our goal is to celebrate, educate, and really affirm the beauty, the creativity, and the joy of Black travel in a way that the travel industry is not doing, but also provide you all the practical information and news and resources that we need as Black travelers.
Mhm.
And so, thank you for the love. It has certainly been a labor of love. It has certainly been a labor of love, but I'm excited about it. Our team is excited about it. You know, investors, they're really excited about it because they realize like they can be a part of something truly special. And the best thing that I did not mention about this magazine is that we also have a study abroad scholarship. I mentioned that, my first time abroad was to Taiwan. What I didn't share was that my professor told me that I came up $1,000 short when I went to pay for that program. So I had to get another job, mind you, that's three jobs while I'm in college trying to get my degree, while also battling the naysayers, right? Don't do it, don't do it. And so I really had to grind to make that Taiwan trip happen. And if Taiwan doesn't happen, the Buddy Pass magazine does not happen. So I understand how powerful study abroad experiences are. Every traveler I've met, Black, white, yeah, doesn't matter. They all have said they started through a study abroad trip. But
Wow.
we know how expensive these trips are, and we also know the lack of representation in these study abroad brochures, flyers, promotions, etc. Black kids are not seeing themselves. I read a study: 5% of Black kids, Black college students, study abroad compared to 76% of white students, mostly white women. And the reason being that Black students do not study abroad is because of financial issues and lack of representation. Right
Mhm.
now, Howard University and FAMU University have in their strategic plan for the next 3 years to have more of their students study abroad.
Wow.
So for every subscription dollar, every advertisement dollar, every sponsorship dollar, proceeds go towards our study abroad scholarship. So that
Yeah.
also gives businesses, right, Krishana, businesses an opportunity. Like you talk about doing good for the Black community. We're giving you a real opportunity to do good for the Black community. We're telling you, if you work with us, if you invest in us, not only are you a part of an exciting new Black product for the Black community, but you can help create scholarships for our children so that they can study abroad and have those same opportunities as every other child, right? So that's what I'm really that is what I am really really excited about, an opportunity to give a Black kid a scholarship so they can go and study abroad in a Korea, they can go and study abroad in China, they can go study abroad in London, wherever. But to be able to show them other
Mhm.
Black travelers through our magazine and then say, here's a check, go on your
Yes.
trip, that's the joy, right, for me.
Yes, that's legacy that is generational wealth,
Yeah.
because generational wealth doesn't always have to be like money, right?
Hmm.
It's that opportunity that then lights that spark, like
Hmm.
you had, right? That
Hmm.
then enabled all of the things that have followed, that
Hmm.
then
Yeah,
serve
yeah,
impact. And, it's like a snowball, right? You just keep
yeah.
building and building and building. So I commend you for doing that. It's
Thank you.
amazing. That is, I love it. I love it. I love it. And then we have Janessa says, and hopefully I'm not mispronouncing, I'm not Black, but I support and I'm inspired by this global Black renaissance and migration. Thank you. Thank you. We are appreciative, right? And so just recognizing that, being able to light that spark for someone else and like the path is really impactful. And yes, excited about the Buddy Pass magazine, definitely for us.
So
Yes,
I
yes.
just shared the link, the subscription link with you, Krishan. I can't share it in their conversation, but I did share the subscription link in the our
Got it.
chat.
I
There you go.
just grabbed it, and bear with me, y'all, while I migrate. So the first one is the subscription link. Let me just write this. And then I'll also put it in the description of the video. And for those that are watching in the future, try to watch the replay today. And so you can take advantage of this generous, generous offer. Let's see, make sure I
Yeah.
post. Yes. And then the other one, because I know there was a question about the link to the website. Let me grab that one and I will pop that in there. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, no, we're excited about it. And also, one of the things I struggled with when I was when I started to write my travel experiences was actually finding a place to share my
Mm,
travel stories. And I unfortunately had to go to like white-owned publications. And I would never hear back, right? I would send a pitch story, wasn't getting any response, or would be asked like, hey, maybe say this differently, or maybe like present this differently. I'm like, well, that takes away from the essence of my story. No, why would I
mhm.
do that? And so again, I'm excited to give Black people a place to share their travel stories in a way that they feel is genuine to them. So if you have
Yes.
a travel story, if you have a poem or a short story or an essay that you want to share, like hit me up, and we'll be happy to feature you and your story and your creative work in the magazine.
Yes. And I know we have them, right? I know they're out
Yeah,
there. I know we have them. That is so, so cool. That is awesome. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, my friend,
yeah.
I'm trying to make sure if there's any last questions y'all have, take a moment to pop them in the
Yeah.
chat
I'm an
because
open book. Ask anything you want.
Yeah, like, he is here, he is answering questions, dropping gems, inspiring the masses. Like, it is a beautiful thing. Um, and I'm just so grateful, first of all, for you sharing your gifts with the
Mhm,
world. So many times, like you said, even in that example that you were sharing from the magazine, we're in
mhm,
a market that's oversaturated, or we're in an environment in
mhm.
which, we're often silenced, or our reality questioned,
Yeah.
that you were able to push through it. And like you said, it's like, it wasn't something that happened overnight, right? But
No, no,
um,
no.
you were able to tap into that and push through, and still, like, share and continue to share. Like, it hasn't just been like this one off. Like, there's so many evolutions and iterations. And so
Mhm.
I'm really, happy and enthusiastic to see how this continues to evolve, for you while you're on this journey. It's exciting. It's exciting to watch, for
I
sure.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So before I let you go, I do have to ask, fellow podcaster,
Okay.
when you gonna come back on the mic?
Let's let's come back on after the magazine launches. So
Okay.
let's come back on after the magazine launch because I am coming back on because that's also a part of our.
Yay.
I'm definitely going to come back on your show because I just love your platform. I love what you're doing, and we're
Thank you.
definitely also launching because that's also part of the package deal with the companies that we're connecting with. It's like help us relaunch the podcast and in a big and influential way.
Yes.
And while we always going to maintain creative control, right? We're going to tell
Yeah.
the stories that we want to tell in the way that we want to tell them. Um, but definitely relaunching that podcast. Got a lot of great ideas for that, including hopefully a travel show where we can go around and really capture right the essence and the beauty of these Black communities that are starting and growing across the world. And so let's reconnect after the magazine launches in October, and then set something up.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah,
Yeah.
y'all take advantage, get your subscriptions, knowing that you'll get this subscription, you'll have
Hmm.
this, those that act today,
Hmm.
50% off. And then
Hmm.
also knowing that you are then contributing to someone else being able to study abroad and have
Yeah.
that rich experience, especially at a time in their life where it
Yeah.
is such a formative time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to be able to connect and, have impact in another, culture, to have this, language, cultural exchange,
Yeah. Yeah.
and, to be represented, because it means so much. And I
Hmm.
know, Leroy, you had seen it. We're all, in this vibration with Juanita Ingram being, Mrs. Mrs. Universe,
Yeah. Yeah.
representing Singapore,
Hmm.
HBCU graduate, Tennessee State University, attorney, philanthropist, the list goes on and on. Uh, and producer, and now,
Hmm.
add Mrs. Universe to the title.
Hmm.
And so, and this is a Black woman from the
Hmm.
United States, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so that is why, I love the value that you have, embedded in the content that you create and the impact that you are having with the magazine. You're not just creating, while, it's definitely phenomenal, a magazine for us to consume, it's also having impact. It's lighting it for
Hmm.
someone else to have the same experience that ignited that spark in you,
Yeah. Yeah.
is so phenomenal. So phenomenal. So I want to thank you for being,
Thank
first
you.
of all,
Yeah.
for being you. Thank you for being you. Um, and thank you for just coming on today and chatting and
I
telling about
appreciate it.
the work that you've been doing, and I know we'll continue to do.
Yeah, no, it was great. I appreciate it. Thank you for folks that tuned in. Really excited about the fact that y'all can had a chance to experience a bit of the magazine, but I'm telling you, there is so much more in it, and I think that people are really gonna love it. And so, thank you for giving us a chance to come on and talk about it and just talk about travel and Black people. Two things, two of my
Yes.
favorite things.
Exactly, exactly. And so for those of y'all who are watching live, again, the links are there. Subscribe. I'll add them to the description. Please like the video, share it with someone, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and then make sure you come back tomorrow because I will be having Stephanie Perry and Rashida Dow on tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. We will be talking about ways to make money abroad
Wow.
and the Exodus Summit, which is coming up in a few weeks. So, y'all, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, but this is the weekend, the only time I've ever gone live on a Saturday and a Sunday. So,
Take advantage. Take advantage.
right, exactly. Hit that notification button so you know. But in the meantime, Leroy, thank you again. Thank y'all
Absolutely.
for
Thank
watching,
you.
and I'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.